Hey everybody, welcome to another review. Today I'm going to be reviewing the new Shikari album, A Kiss for the Whole World. Now, I wanted to record this one for quite a bit, but I've got a bit of a sore throat, so I decided, screw it, I'll just get on with it and see how this sounds. But yeah, this new album came out in April and managed to chart for Shikari's very first #1 album. I got to see the tour for this album, and it was honestly a pretty good concert, and I'm looking forward to going to the arena tour. So kind of just by me saying that, you probably would say or think at least that I'm a big fan of the band, and that's partially true. I do say Shikari's a band that's grown on me over time because I used to dislike them, but I think around this point when this new track came out, this was one that I really enjoyed a lot more, especially getting more into the discography. As a whole, it's not a crazy good album, but it's definitely one I think is one of their better ones in such a long time. I personally felt with The Spark, it had a very mainstream, softer sound that I just thought it was fine. It had some good tracks on there for sure. I always like Live Outside, but I just feel like it hasn't got as much of the stuff I liked from the previous albums in it. Whereas Nothing Is True and Everything Is Possible, the previous album to this one, was one that I personally considered the weakest album in the discography. I barely went into any of the tracks after the album listen. I just don't think it's a very strong album, but here this is quite opposite actually. I think every single track out of the 9 main tracks, then we have 3 of the little interludes to kind of add a little outro to 3 of the tracks. I think the 9 songs are really good, or at least vary between good to some of their best stuff in a long time. For example, Kiss for the Whole World is one of the best songs I think they've released in a long time. It's one just absolutely kicks the energy up. It's just got some really fantastic instrumentation. I just think lyrically it goes for some really upbeat stuff. It kind of feels like, well, you know, you guys have made it through the world, we made it through the pandemic, and wow, everyone deserves a kiss. Although that's probably me misinterpreting it, but it does feel like a song that pretty much you could just reward yourself for listening to. It starts with a little trumpet fanfare, and I think that's a really good way to start off this album. It's definitely one of the strongest songs, and it makes sense why this one deserved the music video. It's fantastic. And then you have 3 of the singles as well, which I think were pretty good. They hyped up the album quite well. Please Set Me On Fire showed that it was going for a little bit more of a mainstream sound as well, but trying to incorporate a more modern take on their own style, and that's what I got from this one. I definitely like the line "Be My Fire Lily." It's a pretty cool contrasted to the album art, which is one of my favorites from them. I don't think this song's crazy good. It's one of my least favorites on this album, but as a whole, it's still a good song. It hypes up as a good lead single for sure. And then you had It Hurts, which is another one I think is one of the weaker ones, but I do like this one over Please Set Me On Fire. It has a little bit more to it. I think it's got a little bit more depth into songwriting, and it's just overall just a little bit more of a vibe, especially live. This one kicked much more ass than Please Set Me On Fire, that's for sure. And the last single we had was Bloodshot, which is just the song that kind of reeled me into really liking this one. The energy, just the overall little distorted vocals that just go around. I think it's using vocoder, just gives it repeating the line "hypnotized, so hypnotized, so hypnotizable." It's just so insane. It just feels so weird, but it definitely has that Shikari brand to it, and this track's probably got one of the most catchy choruses they've done in a long time. I definitely am in love with this one, and this one's just an absolute banger live. Definitely the best of the 3 singles, I'd say. But outside of the singles, I feel like the non-singles really hold up nicely. Leap Into the Lightning is one of my favorite tracks since probably I'd say since the Minesweep, because I wasn't really into the last 2 albums, and this one is fantastic. It's probably one of my top Shikari songs period at the moment. It's just insane. The little instrumentation to the just the vocal delivery and the chorus, just to the overall electronic aspect they just incorporated it. It's beautiful on this track. I think Leap Into Lightning followed by Feature Soul being the outro for it is just a great combo. This song, it feels too short. At least it just feels like as soon as you're getting into it, it kind of ends. But I feel like if it's dragged on any more, then that's kind of a problem. So I'm happy that it's got a 1 minute outro called To Feature Soul, which is definitely a fun little addition to the track. You have Deadwood, which I probably say is the weakest track on this album. It plays a lot more with a little orchestrated sound, which it definitely is noticeable in the first few minutes of the song, but as it gets towards the end, it starts to build that energy up. I wasn't really big on the chorus, which is "Am I no good? Am I just made of wood? Am I dead wood?" But kind of go back into just how it contrasts into the album track list. It kind of makes sense at this point, and it doesn't feel too out of place. I just thought that was a minor thing that stood out to me. I think if anything now, it's just a little bit more humorous because it just definitely shows that in Shikari's writing, I don't think it's necessarily as complex or as deep as it used to be on some of the earlier tracks, especially when there's a lot of references mentioned in this album, and I'm not even joking. The next track, Jailbreak, mentions the Dreamers Hotel, literally the biggest track off the previous album. And there's a few other references as well. Kiss for the Whole World references Standing Like Statues, which is great. I was happy to hear that one be brought back, and it definitely fits into the whole theme of this song as well. So, if anything, the references can be a pretty good enhancement, but sometimes I feel like they're way too on the nose. But there's not too many to the point where you're just, there's another reference, so at least that's not too bad. And then Bloodshot had a outro to it as well called Coda, or Bloodshot Coda, which it was kind of like an orchestrated outro to it, and it sounds great. It definitely gives a really cool take on trying to put a good end into this one song, and it's nice because this was a single, so just having kind of a little outro to a single we already heard kind of gives you a new listen to it, because I listened to the 3 singles before the album came out, and it's nice that it kind of gives Bloodshot another new take on it, especially with this. And this probably I'd say is my favourite of the 3, just because the orchestrated point is just absolutely gold. It's definitely one of my favourite points. And then you had 2 more songs. You have both about aquatic creatures. The first one, Goldfish, is definitely a fan favourite. This one's one of the heavier tracks, but instrumentally it's mainly electronic, so it's pretty much a very heavy electronic track that does have some screaming here and there. It has a very small breakdown in the bridge, which is kind of interesting because we haven't really had any proper heavy vocals. They've been scanned here and there throughout this album, like Deadwood towards the end has a little bit. Please Set Me On Fire kind of has a big grit to the vocals. It Hurts kind of has a tiny bit at some point, but as a whole the album doesn't really have many, if not any, unclean vocals, so Goldfish kind of delivers a little bit more angsty energy towards that, and this one is just great. It's really insane. You are the goldfish, I am the bowl. I just love this one. It's definitely one of the top tracks for sure. And ending off this album we have Giant Pacific Octopus, I Don't Know You Anymore. This one is just, I feel like just listening to the first lines, being something along the lines of, I feel like a chameleon, but actually I'm feeling more like a giant Pacific octopus. Already just kind of sets the tone of what you're going for. It's a kind of a silly way to kind of word it, but it gives it a very intricate meaning, especially since Goldfish was talking about, being hypnotized as well, mentioning hypnosis. Or at least under my control, at least, which kind of fits in when Bloodshot is so hypnotized. But yeah, I'd probably say Giant Pacific Octopus is quite a good ending. Not one of my favourites though. I think this is one of my lesser favourites. It's one of the ones I don't really remember much from. I go into it this album, and when it kind of gets towards the end, I just don't think much of it. Giant Pacific Octopus Swirling Off into Infinity is probably the best title I've ever seen for an Shikari track, and is a good outro to the song as well. I think it kind of gives it a nice little good ending, especially since this song is way shorter than the others. This one's less than 3 minutes, whereas the second shortest track is over 3 minutes, so it's kind of nice. It expands upon that a little bit. It's honestly insane that we have a very short Ed Shikari album. I definitely say it's the shortest one by far, because not only do you have 9 songs, with 3 of them being like interlude outros to the respective tracks, I felt like there's more tracks with other ones, and especially some of them were going for a longer time stamp as well. They had a little bit more depth to it, but it seems like they wanted to produce some pretty quick bangers, and I'm not honestly shocked, especially knowing how this album was produced. If I'm correct, this album was produced literally with solar power. Apparently there was like a solar powered little shackle site, I think Ryle Reynolds, the lead singer, had. I'm not sure if this is fully correct, but it had something to do with just being created using solar power. So this all was produced and all played with that, and I think that's insane. And I'm quite happy with the reception of this album. A lot of people like this one, and it's nice to see, you know, an independent band like Shikari get #1 as well for this album. I don't think it's the best album. It's definitely not the one that mainly deserves it, if anything. I'd probably say one of the first albums definitely is more deserving, but this album's great. I don't think it's the best album, but it's definitely coming towards one of my tops. I'd probably say it might be a top 3 album, actually, from them. I think it's quite clean. It has a really good production all the way through, and I just think overall the ideas and sounds, they catch you off guard. They're not what you expect, and they kind of give you and throw you in for a surprise. It's a pretty good Shikari album. It's honestly a pretty good Shikari album. I have literally little to no problem with this one. I feel like some songs could be better, but as a whole, it's a pretty good album, and one that I have been quite enjoying and repeating again and again and again. It's not crazy good, but as a Shikari album, it's definitely one of my more favorited ones. I give this one a 3.5 out of 5. It's definitely grown on me. I used to think it was a mixed bag, but it kind of grew on me to being a 3, and going back into it numerous times, it's definitely grown even more. So I hope you guys enjoyed this review. It's a lot shorter than the Sleep Token one, which was 30 minutes, so it's nice this one can be narrowed down to like even less than half the time of that. And in the circumstances of me being sick, I've got another video to edit, so hopefully by the time that you start seeing posts, I am not sick. So this probably is just a one-off, because I do not want to record necessarily when I feel like this. Considering I've had a coughing fit, I've had to edit out. But yeah, that's my review. I hope you guys enjoy. The March albums of the month is coming out really soon, and then I'm going to work on the April and some other reviews. Thank you guys so much for watching, and see you guys in the next video. Bye.